Hello and welcome to Neyland Stadium. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We are with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And we're here in getting close to midnight. It's the weather's not really holding up. It's been storming a little bit after this game, but luckily they were able to get it in without a second delay because, of course, a weird start to this game ended up being a weird game all the way through, but half an hour delay to get things started that kind of canceled the pregame festivities Vol fans are used to, running through the tee, seeing the band on the field. They just kind of had to get back out here, get warm, and get going. Ultimately, though, Tennessee was able to hold on for a 30-13 win over Austin Peay. And we're going to break down everything we saw and our biggest takeaways, starting on the offensive end, moving to defense, and then talking about that third phase of the game with the special teams unit. So let's jump right into it. On the offensive side of the ball, Noah, what was your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I think the biggest one was the receivers. In 2 games now, we haven't really seen that group. You know, some new guys, some new faces in there, some guys who are really getting their first chance to play, be counted on with bigger roles this season. But we haven't really seen that group gel yet. You saw some drop passes tonight, an uncharacteristic start for this offense that kind of lasted throughout the game and kept Austin Peay in it. You saw a lot of punts. We saw a lot of punts last week as well. So the receivers not really gelling at this point, not really clicking at this point has been a little bit of a surprise. I think that's something that will get corrected. You saw a little bit of it get corrected in the second half. Some of those quick hit plays to Brew McCoy, him using his big body to kind of sustain some drives. Ramel Keaton, getting a catch in there and getting a touchdown. The first to a Tennessee receiver this season, which again is surprising. And then McCollin Castles getting him involved in the passing game as well late with a touchdown. I know he's a tight end, but that's been a little bit of a surprise. I think you saw some improvement there late in the game, and I think you're going to probably see more of that as season goes. Maybe that second half is really what that group kind of needed, but it has been a surprise early on to see them play the way that they have.
Yeah, it's been a slow start for the wide receiver room. Even you mentioned it. First touchdown to a wide receiver is Brew McCoy today. Still the only one that we've seen. We've seen Dylan Sampson get in the end zone on a touchdown pass. Now we've seen both tight ends get in the end zone on touchdown passes, but Brew McCoy is still the lone Tennessee wide receiver to find the checkerboard. You also touched on how they kind of corrected it. They started to just go to these quick hit plays. Part of that is Austin Peay's taking away they're playing a softer shell. They're making sure you're not going to be able to beat them on a big play down the field. Part of that's also you got to get Joe Milton going, and I think they realized that early. A lot of those plays should have been caught.
Yeah.
Ramel Keaton with the big drop last week. What was the other 3 this week that couldn't really, or probably wanted some passes back in Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, and Squirrel White. They were the ones that probably wanted a pass or 2 back this week. So they started to get to the running back, started to hit those screen passes, started to get their guys in open space. So I've seen a lot of criticism of you want to open the playbook, you want to see them take their shots down the field. Well, if they're not there, you don't want to take them. You want to take what the defense gives you, and what they gave Tennessee were some of these screen plays. However, they also gave them some shots over the middle. Josh Heupel talked about it as well after the game where, maybe we couldn't get the deep ball going that we necessarily wanted to, but we had plenty of opportunities to hit on big chunk plays to move the chains and pick up a good chunk of yards over the middle. And whether it was a Milton misfire or whether it was a drop pass, it just wasn't there tonight. And that's something that's going to need to be corrected with Florida on deck next week in the Swamp. That's not going to fly against a better opponent, but it was good enough to give Tennessee the win today. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball, though. What was your biggest takeaway from a defense that's now had 2 straight really solid games to start this season?
I think it's their ability to get to their quarterback still, starting with up front. You saw it last week against Virginia, like you mentioned, and they kind of picked up where they left off there. Came up with 7 sacks tonight as a team. I think 4 different defensive linemen had sacked. Josh Joseph, James Pierce, who had a big game last week. Tyler Barron as well. Being able to kind of live in that backfield was huge for them today. For an Austin Peay team that was able to make a couple plays with their quarterback today. So I think that was good to see. You're seeing a lot of consistency there. They really love that package with the speedier guys. They call it the rabbit package. You're seeing quicker, faster guys up there, and that seems to be working for them. It worked for them against Virginia last week. It worked for them tonight. So really to see that consistency pick up for a defense that struggled with inconsistency last year. Seeing consistency in 2 games. I know the opponents are going to be facing better offenses this year, but a really promising start for the defense overall, especially that defensive front.
Yeah, definitely the bright spot of the team through 2 games, which is not necessarily what you expect on the defensive end. Probably the MVP of the game. Overall, you can honestly make the argument, but definitely on the defensive end would be Aaron Beasley. Of course, Keenan Peely not able to go at the middle linebacker position. He's going to miss an extended amount of time this season. Well, Aaron Beasley not only stayed in that weak side linebacker spot with Elijah Herring getting the start of middle linebacker, but you saw a couple of times Aaron Beasley flipping over to that middle linebacker position, playing both sides and doing a really good job at it. Led the team in tackles with 9, had 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. So he was everywhere for Tennessee, all over the field. And they're going to need him to continue to play at that level, especially with Keenan Peely gone.
Yeah, and I think, too, that secondary has been really good at getting in the backfield as well. Wesley Walker, a guy, too, there's a lot of things expected out of him this year, had a good game last week, and then tonight comes up with a huge critical, fourth down sack. I think they talked about it. They want to improve it to getting to the quarterback as a defense and has shown a lot of promising signs there.
Yeah, it was an overall really good game for the defense. Some areas, of course, they need to tighten up and improve at, especially some plays in the secondary, flagged for DPIs and kind of just getting burnt on a couple of situations. Think back to Danico Slaughter, where you can only blame him so much because he fell, but plays like that do need to be ironed out and cleaned up. But overall, look at all 3 phases of that defense, and I think you gave it a positive grade. But let's wrap it up by talking about the special teams. Probably the biggest concern heading into this game was at the punter position. Jackson Ross, his first year punting for Tennessee, redshirt freshman out of Australia, has that unique rugby style of kicking, can go with both legs. A really interesting player. Did not perform well against the Who's in Nashville. It wasn't a secret. It was a tough situation. Kind of booted a bunch of balls out of bounds. Couldn't keep the ball straight. Well, today he started the game off with a shaky punt. It didn't go necessarily well. It wasn't horrific, but it definitely wasn't what you need from your punter. Well, he cleaned that up going forward. I think he finished the game with 5 punts, so those last 4 really solid kicks from Jackson Ross at the punter position, and it even set up Tennessee in good field position. Don't know how much you want to give credit to the punter or discredit the return man, but a muffed punt early in that game put Tennessee in really good field position very early. So a better performance from Jackson Ross. Still needs to take that next step of consistency, but it was definitely a welcome sight. Talk about the kickoff specialist, too, in Josh Turbyville. Another guy that struggled in Nashville, kicked 2 kickoffs out of bounds. Took a step in the right direction. Still improvements. Kicked 1 out of bounds today. But it was a better showing. He had a lot of touchbacks. It was just that one that didn't come off right. You need consistency from those two positions. You absolutely need it. But it was a step in the right direction. It's not there yet. It's not perfect. It isn't where it needs to be, but it looked better. But Charles Campbell, kind of an unsung MVP today, knocked down all of his kicks. What did you think about Charles Campbell?
Yeah, we talked about it in the offseason and fall camp as well, how big the field goal kicking was for Tennessee last year. You go back to that Alabama game, obviously, with Chase McGrath. It provided Tennessee with an edge. We didn't get a chance last week in Nashville to really get a chance to see what Charles Campbell could do, but a guy coming with some credentials, playing, having a career previously at Indiana, a Tennessee kid who was excited, eager to come back home. And, man, he goes out there tonight and was perfect, and 3 for 3 on field goals, and really – for a while there was Tennessee's main source of scoring. So a really good game for him to come out here, his first. He talked about it in the offseason, how big it was for him to play at Tennessee, to play in Neyland Stadium. And his debut here was a really good one, and one Tennessee really needed to kind of get the scoring going. So a very promising start for him as well. Yeah,
the hometown kid, Charles Campbell, getting the job done for Tennessee on special teams. That'll do it all for us from Neyland Stadium today. Tennessee 30, Austin Peay 13. The Vols improved to 2-0 before beginning SEC play next weekend in the Swamp, Gainesville, Florida. We'll have coverage throughout the entire week leading up to that big game as Tennessee looks to take their first win down there in what feels like forever. So it'll be a big week for Tennessee, definitely a winnable game. And we will be making the trip to the Swamp to see Florida, Tennessee in action. So make sure you head over to VolReport.com for all of our coverage of the Austin Peay game, the league leading up to Florida, and then that pivotal game as well. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to not miss a single video we post and stay up to date with the Vols. Links to everything you need is in the description, and thank you for watching.